Welcome to Business BTS. Today, we're taking you inside one of the most intense battles in the digital world, the standoff between Telegram and the Russian government. This is a story of rebellion, encryption, and government overreach led by a tech visionary named Pavel Durov. You might have heard about Telegram's ban in Russia, but today, we'll reveal every twist and turn, showing you why this fight is far more than just about an app. It's about the future of online privacy and freedom. It all started with a man named Pavel Durov, often dubbed the Russian Zuckerberg. Born in 1984 in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, Pavel wasn't your typical tech entrepreneur. He had an independent spirit, a flair for rebellion, and a deep distrust of government surveillance. In 2006, Pavel founded VKontakte, Russia's answer to Facebook. VKontakte quickly became the most popular social network in Russia, but its success came at a price. By 2011, Durov was already at odds with the Russian government. After refusing to censor VKontakte users who were organizing protests, he became a target. When armed police arrived at his apartment demanding access to user data, Durov famously threw a paper plane out of his window, a symbol of his rejection of authority. Though he eventually fled Russia, this wasn't the end of Durov's story, far from it. In 2013, while living in exile, Durov founded Telegram, a messaging app that, unlike most others, was built with encryption and privacy at its core. In 2017, the Russian government introduced an anti-terrorism law known as the Yarovaya Law. One of its provisions required messaging apps to store encryption keys on Russian soil and provide the Federal Security Service, or FSB, access to those keys. Telegram, with its encryption and refusal to share data, was affected by this law. In July 2017, the FSB formally requested that Telegram hand over the encryption keys to its 200 million users. The government stated this was a necessary step to address terrorism, arguing that terrorists and criminals were using encrypted platforms to avoid law enforcement. Pavel Durov wasn't about to back down. For him, this wasn't just a legal battle, it was a moral one. Telegram's mission was to protect user privacy, and giving up the encryption keys would violate that very mission. Durov refused to comply with the FSB's request, calling it an unconstitutional demand and vowing to protect user data at all costs. This was a bold move. Few companies had ever dared to defy the Russian government so openly. Durov knew the consequences could be severe, but he believed the principles of privacy were worth the risk. Telegram's official position was clear. No encryption keys would be handed over to any government, Russian or otherwise. And so the battle lines were drawn. On April 13, 2018, a Moscow court ruled that Telegram must be banned from operating in Russia after its refusal to cooperate with the FSB. The government ordered ISPs to block access to Telegram servers, effectively kicking the app out of its own country. Within hours, millions of Russian users were cut off from the app. But this wasn't the end. In fact, it was just the beginning. The ban proved far harder to enforce than the Russian government anticipated. Telegram's team quickly introduced tools to help users bypass the blocks using VPNs and proxies. Within days, despite the ban, millions of Russians were back on Telegram, communicating freely. It was a digital cat-and-mouse game. The Russian government blocked millions of IP addresses in a desperate attempt to cripple Telegram's service, but Durov fought back. He personally funded the use of proxy services to keep the app running, a bold move that further solidified his status as a champion of privacy. Over the next 2 years, the Russian government's war against Telegram turned into a fiasco. In a misguided attempt to block the app, Russia accidentally disrupted hundreds of websites and online services, including banks and government platforms. This widespread chaos only strengthened Telegram's popularity. By now it was clear, Telegram had won the loyalty of millions of users who saw the app as a tool for free expression. By June 2020, the Russian government quietly gave up. Officials announced that they were lifting the ban on Telegram, claiming the app had agreed to cooperate on anti-terrorism efforts. But behind the scenes, the government had simply conceded defeat. Telegram had never handed over the encryption keys, and the app remained as private as ever. Today, Telegram boasts over 700 million active users and continues to be one of the most secure messaging platforms in the world. It remains a beacon of digital privacy, particularly in regions where government surveillance is rampant. For Pavel Durov, this victory was more than just about an app. It was a statement. A statement that, in the battle between privacy and control, privacy could still win. The battle between Telegram and the Russian government is a reminder of the powerful role that tech companies can play in standing up for user rights. While the fight may be over for now, the larger war over privacy and encryption continues to rage on. This incredible story of resistance and resilience shows how one company can stand up to a powerful government in defense of its principles. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the tech and business world. Thanks for watching Business BTS. See you next time.